in terms of information. So over to Karuna.
Having this round table in Bangalore is pretty interesting for me because I think many years ago we started our activity from Bangalore itself. I think in the year 2002, I was invited by the Bangalore Municipal Corporation and the water utility here to give a presentation on envisioning for the city. And at that time, among many things, when I said, I think your institutions have to go for business process reengineering, the then commissioner said, Madam, I think you should not use jargon. So it is better if you say something like reducing the number of steps for, let's say, a building plan approval. So later, it just turned out that almost the building plan approval that had something like 172 steps was kind of truncated and reduced to 90 steps by a Singapore-based company called Crimson Logic. So we started off very well, and that's more than a decade ago. Then another very good experience that I had in Bangalore was participating in one of the BATF meetings, the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, perhaps the first ever effort in getting the government and the private sector to come together and vision for a city. And I saw Nandan Nelikani, make presentations. Then I saw the government counterparts making presentations in a very humble way, saying the government saying, we are not able to do this, and Nandan saying, sorry, we wanted to do something, but we're not able to do that. So, I thought that was a very good part. But as we moved on, I think we saw a little bit of challenges. For instance, I was at the launch of intelligent urbanization of Cisco when John Chambers, the head honcho himself, came to Bangalore and announced to the world that he will do a lot of business in India, especially Bangalore. But in the last 4 or 5 years, we haven't seen much movement there. And the next, perhaps not a very happy, let's say, incident was a few of us were invited to actually start the city development CDP under JNNURM. Mr.Jayesh, Ranjan will know, one of my colleagues, Dr. Srinivas Chari, and I were here in 2005 when actually the Prime Minister announced it. 2006 we were here. But unfortunately, we couldn't even put the CDP in place because we couldn't create a steering committee that had to have a representation from the state, the city, and state and city. So that was not really a good experience. But this is just to let you know that where we started on a good note, then we had some stumbling blocks, and we are still moving ahead, whatever. So what perhaps today all of us will be discussing is about the Smart City Conference. And by virtue of having experienced so many Smart City conferences, having spoken there, and I'm sure all of you have been speaking at conferences, and you would perhaps agree with me when I say that our discussions may have to follow a small framework that I will share with you now. Because most of the conferences I see are technology heavy. And we won't know because they are constantly discussing technology. Most of the policy makers may not be very excited. So the framework that quickly I'll suggest, and maybe you will endorse it or negate it, we'll take the discussions out. Now what I have in mind is, I think we have to discuss basically around 5 points. The first one would be setting the vision for a smart city. The second one would be bringing in technologies. The third one would be working on integration of those technologies. The fourth one would be adding innovation. And the fifth one would be driving collaboration. Setting a vision, bringing in technologies, working on integration, adding innovation, and driving collaboration. Quickly, let me just run through why I think this is important. Now, setting a vision. I think all of us know, by virtue of having worked in the smart cities area, we know that there are more than 2,000 smart city projects kicked off in all parts of the world, be it Asia's or Europe or Americas. But we know that all of them are either pilots or are in the early stages. We don't find anything so far as a fully integrated and strategically designed smart city yet. So at this stage, it's an opportunity and also a cause for excitement if we start talking about how do we envision for a smart city. For instance, I'm sure some of the participants would really like to know, I heard Barcelona now, some of them would perhaps be very excited to really know what is the city protocol of Barcelona. How is it that the city has been able to pull all constituents together and work with technology partners to come out with a framework which they say not only works for Barcelona, but also works anywhere else. So this piece of envisioning for a city may really excite people. So also I'll talk about simple things like, let's say, take a Taichung city in Taiwan. Recently it has been awarded the Intelligent Community of the World. It's a small place, never really known for technology. How come it is now sitting as the top city of using technologies, or not even using technologies, but having become intelligent? People would like to know why the mayor thought of this, what was his vision, etc. We can even talk about Canada Technology Triangle. We can talk about even Gangnam, district that has something like 2.5% of the population in South Korea, but has been able to produce 25% of the gross domestic product, primarily because of its technology orientation. So I think this piece on vision will excite people. The second thing is on bringing in technologies. I think this is a great, let's say, a great piece. Everybody has been historically talking about it. We can talk about smart buildings, we can talk about smart grids, we can talk about smart transportation, we can talk about smart waste management. More specifically, I think in smart buildings, we can talk about how smart buildings are racing ahead when compared to either smart transportation or anything else. And how I was told that in UK and US alone, there are 100,000 smart buildings that are living in isolation because they want to get on the grid, but the smart grids are lagging behind. So we could talk about these aspects of technology and why certain elements have to move in tandem. Then, the value of these perhaps will be realized. Then we can also talk about smart grids. I mean, we have experts here. And in smart grids, what is exciting today is not only the infrastructure, but making people understand that using smart meters alone is not, is not working out for most cities. But what works out is when you use a lot of data analytics and real-time information and give them analytics so that they understand from the user perspective. It's very exciting. I'm sure a lot of IT companies will participate in discussions if we, if we factor in this. Then take a look at smart transportation. I think a whole lot of subjects can be talked about. Now, smart waste management. Incidentally, I was somewhere I was talking about this machine-to-machine learning. And machine-to-machine technologies today are being used for waste management. I mean, one won't really realize, but these are exciting, trends that people would like to learn. So I think we can go quite ballistic in this area. That is purely my perception. But one very important area from the policy makers and from the bureaucrats and the top leadership of a city that becomes very relevant, I think, is let's say today if the smart city landscape is littered with a lot of jargon. For instance, in 2011, we met very senior people in New York, Michael Bloomberg's office. And the person there choosing technologies very clearly said, ma'am, there are so many vendors and so many technologies, so many solutions, so many platforms. There's completely, utterly confusing, and we are not in a position to select what is the right one. So imagine if a smart top leader from New York is saying that, then how our people are, getting confused. So if there's someone who can give a best practice, someone who can share that city-centric solution can be selected like this. I don't know. I think I'm just being utopian in my, understanding. If someone has something like that to share, I think it will be mind-blowing. People will love it. So that's the second point, working with technologies. I think the third one is working on integration. I think as technology providers, all of us know integration is the biggest pain point because we are working with legacy systems, and they can be Jurassic and they can be absolutely attached to those, legacy systems. So if there is any method other than the rip and replace, that today all technology companies are using, then people would love to listen to that. Is there a success story somewhere where there are, of course, where they have used the legacy systems and still continue to bring about transformation? I'm sure Mr. Jayesh also will appreciate what I'm saying. Well, the fourth one is adding innovation. I think there's a phenomenal opportunity in this smart cities area to add innovation. I'll just give one or two examples. I think today we have a huge amount of digital infrastructure. We're talking, there's social media available, there's internet, there is cloud, there's smart devices, there are sensor-based technologies that we are using. Now, pulling all of them together and making citizens, let's say, as reporters. Why should an NDTV say that citizen journalism? I think the governments also can do that. For instance, I was told in one of the cities in Spain, again, that they're using these citizens and to talk about crime, and most of the predictive policing, predictive analytics is being used primarily because of the digital infrastructure that's already there. And in India, we have, ample amount of opportunity. So we can even explore that. And the second level of innovation, I think, is very simple, is mobile applications. I don't know with whom I was talking just now. If all of us are listening to what is happening in other parts of the world. For instance, London had a hackathon, and New York City has a hackathon. Practically everybody is having hackathons, primarily to look at mobile applications that can make citizens' lives easier. Now, in London, they have a data store from which, people can actually get all the data sets, the public data sets, and then start working on them. In India also, I'm very happy to announce that in the month of August, we have thrown open our data sets. In Delhi, the government actually made their data sets available so that we can develop mobile applications, and it was done in partnership with NASSCOM. I think people who attend the conference will certainly love to know, because even a student community can come here the minute you talk about this, because who knows, there's an opportunity for social entrepreneurship, etc. So the last one is, the most important one, is driving collaboration. I think this is the biggest pain point. All of us know that most of the time smart cities still remains as a concept because all the departments are siloed and we are not able to drive collaboration. I saw something very interesting in the United States, which was the U.S. Department of State's Homeland Security's program. They created something called fusion centers. They created something like 72 fusion centers, where there's real-time data sharing between the federal, state, and city agencies. And if we can mimic even that, I think, some little bit of predictability in terms of preventing disasters or giving security is a possibility. Then collaboration between different vendors. Now we have from Schneider. I know Schneider works with Microsoft, works with Cisco. So that's one. In Rome, I saw something called Real-Time Rome, where the government, in a simple way, partnered with the Telecom Italia and started showing visualization of how the city behaves, which excited citizens, and so that's an opportunity for some little bit of collaboration. And the last and the most important one is about engaging citizens, because this is, if you don't put citizens into this game of smart city, I don't think anything will move. So collaboration, the most important part is the citizens. We personally have experimented with crowdsourcing, and I think people are out there wanting their knowledge to be embedded into policy. And we have seen failure experiments in smart grids again in US and Germany, because the citizens were not willing to, buy a smart meter and just align with that. So what do we need? How do we embed the aspirations of citizens? How do we partner with them? So that can be a beautiful discussion. So I'm done, and I would also like to say that Indian examples can be discussed at length. The smart grid experiments in India. Then IBM has started their challenge awards in, I think, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Surat. people would like to know, I mean, what have they done? Because this is movement on ground. So these are my few thoughts. I think the 5 points, if it's okay for you, maybe we can stick to that. We can also go and discuss a lot of other things to make it meaningful for different stakeholders who will attend the conference. Thank you.